Welcome, horror fam, to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Duff.
Hey, guys.
And our producer Nico.
Hey, howdy, hey.
On today's show, we're going to start looking forward to next year's event, HHN30. Is that what we're still calling it?
Yeah, I am until they tell us otherwise.
Yeah.
Sure.
HHN 30.5.
No, that sounds terrible.
What about
30?
What about 30 part do?
Ooh,
Like that.
but we never had a part. Ooh.
Ooh.
I don't know French. I'm sorry.
Before we get to that, do we have any news or rumors? Anything we will housekeeping? Anything we need to?
I am currently drinking an Outer Range. Oh wait, no, that was last week's episode.
That's not.
Yeah. So if you didn't listen to last week's episode, it's a two-parter with the guys of Fear and Beer. We created our own icons. It was really cool. Go check it out. Part 2's on our feed. Part 1's on theirs.
Good peeps. Yeah. Good people. The Fear and Beer. All right. So let's just, if we don't have any news or rumors, let's hop right into it, Duff. Let's take it away. What do you think is going to happen next year?
I think naturally we should start with the houses that we've already seen, right? Makes the most sense.
Yeah. Do we think we're going to see both of those returning, or do we just want to take them one at a time?
Let's do it one at a time. So we saw 3 houses. We'll start with the 2 that I think are probably more up in the air in people's minds. And let's go with fairies first. So Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. It's an original property that a lot of people believe that we kind of got the full, not the intensity of the house, but the full like context. We got the full story. It delivered what it needed to story-wise, for the most part, people believe. So I think that's kind of like number 1 on the chopping block in like kind of the fans' minds. I've made it very clear that I don't believe it's seen its best or its complete form, and I think it would improve heavily. I can agree that the whole story part, it's been told. There's not much that will be added by getting it at full capacity, if we even do. Which I'm sure we'll discuss that part more later. I want it to come back, and honestly, I think it'll come back because it is something that's already been produced. We're talking about an HHN, the creative team as a whole, is kind of bare bones at the moment. I don't know what the resources are with actual staffing, and then also financially, what is to add houses when you already have something there that you don't need to replace. So I could see why they would replace it, and I think if they found the budget there to do it, they would. But I'd predict it's coming back personally.
Yeah, I think it is coming back. I personally would like to see something new, unless it came back in kind of its a mega form for those who kind of play Pokemon. Like if it comes back, like in
Super Saiyan, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. If it comes back and it's just kind of like in a different like the same storyline, but kind of almost a different layout with a more kind of what am I trying to say? Like a more soundstage-esque house with a grander scale, then I think I could really get down. But if we're just going to see similar layouts, just without plexiglass, I've been there, done that. I don't personally think I would get super excited going through a Tooth Fairy house just without plexiglass in next year. I would do it. I would enjoy it, but it would be something. It wouldn't be like American Werewolf in London coming back 2 years after its 2013 run.
It's a way different situation than that.
Yeah.
And then kind of to piggyback on what you said, would it be awesome if they suddenly made it like not a completely different house, but like plussed everything? Yeah. That won't happen. I don't think there's any chance of them keeping the same exact house, but then like, well, everything's grander now. Like that's just at that point they're probably gonna create a new house. I'd think.
You think they would just basically leave
basically the same thing? Maybe there'd be a couple scenes that get tweaked to the point where they're different scenes or grander, but you were saying more like an actual soundstage house. A traditional soundstage house would be And I don't think they'd take it that far. I think that claustrophobic feel is kind of, if it comes back, that's what we'd get again. I think there, we talked about full reviews twice on this house, and there's a few scenes that we think there were pretty big aspects missing. Obviously, if they did the full event, we'd see those. I think even if we still had plexiglass and all that, we'd probably still find a way to do those scenes. They have a whole year to figure that out and execute it. So I think we'd get those fill-ins for sure, but I don't think we get a, massive change. Also, you were talking about how you wouldn't be necessarily excited. And same for me. Like, it wouldn't be like extremely high on my hype list because there's going to be 7 houses I haven't seen if these 3 come back. So I'd be more excited for those 7.
Right.
But think about how many people in the community did not get to experience any of these, especially one of them. So I think it would almost be higher on their hype list because it's been here. They didn't get to experience it. And now after waiting a year, there's their chance to. So I think it kind of, for more of the diehards that didn't get to experience it, these houses would be high on their hype list if they returned just because they'd get to see them finally and they wouldn't miss them completely.
Yeah, it's definitely, we should definitely try to not forget that there are plenty of people who don't live locally or internationally even who are not able to come see any of these, especially Beetlejuice, but we'll get to that in a moment, that we really should, when thinking about if these are coming back, I think they'll probably, Creative will definitely be considering that as well.
And then I guess we could kind of just move on to Bride. I think it's basically the same situation for me as Fairies. I think the only difference is kind of personal levels. And that's, I think Bride was more complete. I think that, yes, the story was told, but also I think the scares are kind of what they were. The intensity that we got is kind of what you're going to get. If it came down to bringing either of the 2 back, though, I'd kind of prefer to see Fairies. I think Bride has also told the story pretty well, as Fairies did. But I think kind of Bride's already, the intensity we saw is kind of what it would be. It would amp up a little bit at full capacity, but I don't know how much. That being said, I'd still prefer it comes back. I want both these houses to come back. I don't think I need to see anything new, as cool as it would be, obviously. But on a personal level, I don't need it. And there's just so many people who didn't get to see these. I think it would be best to just bring them back. And then also, again, financially for Universal just makes a lot more sense.
That's interesting. I think I'm going to disagree. I think I would much rather see this one back just because it was just a funner house to go through. And I think, it would be definitely with full capacity, without the plexiglass and everything. I think this one, even though I've seen it, I think it could still potentially be one of my favorite houses of the year, just if it were to stay almost exactly the same.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think my big thing for wanting Fairies more is I think we got to see less of its potential. So, I kind of want to see it achieve that potential. Where I think Bride, we got closer to what it is. Because, I didn't expect to have Bride at the top. But, only 3 houses. But Bride was my favorite of the 3 houses we got this year. So, we kind of got what it was. Again, though, at the end of the day, I'd like to see them back. So.
What about you, Nico?
Y'all probably already know. Brides, definitely. I would much rather see. I would love to see both come back to their full potential, but I would love to see if we get to get some of those good scares, just so we can get that classic Frankenstein's monster scare at the end of Brides, just so we can get that for real. That's probably what I'm looking most forward to, if it does come.
More importantly, as you're I'll call you a themed entertainment analyst.
Yes.
What do you think happens?
Well, here's the thing. They've already invested all that there. So, and there's going to be probably no productions or anything that needs to happen in those sound stages between now and September of next year. I say leave it up, and that might be what they do. They already had the designs. I mean, why let a good idea go to waste? I understand that some people are going to be upset and be like, why I saw these houses last year, but it's like, you know what? Well, not everyone got to. And it feels like they want everyone to see the things that they made. I mean, that's how I feel like they want to do, but from a pure business standpoint, it makes sense just to leave them up. It's like, if it's not broken, or don't fix it. So
That's kind of my train of thought. I do want to bring up one piece on these two houses before we start to go anywhere else. I was recording Scream and Stream, or not Scream and Stream. Hey guys, congrats on your great season. Stay in Screamcast with Hunter. And I'll spoil a little aspect of it. Is he brought up the fact that for fairies we got that full-fledged POV from Universal on YouTube, whereas Bride, it was more like a little teaser. Do you think that kind of, can we read into that at all?
Ooh, yeah, I never thought about that.
Whoa, huh?
So I'll tell you real quick what my answer was on the show was, I think you can have fun looking at it that way. I'm trying not to read into it though. Like, could it mean something? Sure, but when I'm looking at what, especially for HHN, what the PR and marketing does, it's not really always correlating with what's happening at the event. So I try not to read into it. I know it's habit too, and you really want to, and it can be fun too, but I stay away from that, because at the end of the day, they still did get like half of Bride in YouTube video. So it's not like they didn't show it. They just didn't do the full POV release.
Right.
Do you think we're going to get any, you think we'll get that Peacock show next year? That had some of the creations of some of that stuff?
I wonder if the Peacock show that we heard about was kind of just the puppet theater video we got.
Okay.
Because they labeled as part of HHN Forever. The only thing we've got since then is, I think, 4 walkthrough videos, like from previous years, and they're all from Hollywood. That's what HHN Forever videos have been so far, and they stopped probably like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I've heard that they were filming like a lot of other things right around that time when that puppet theater thing was filmed. So they definitely have a lot of content in the can.
But I wonder if that was more marketing than Peacock.
Yeah.
Because supposedly it was Jack and some icons and stuff. So if that's the case, it could be a more marketing thing. But we don't know. We weren't there. There's not a lot of details of what was happening in that shoot. So,
yeah, true.
But I would love to see more Peacock content for HHN. That would be a dream.
If I had to guess, I think we will. I think we'll definitely see some Peacock content coming.
I think it'd be amazing if all the houses got announced like they announced Puppet Theater, with like kind of like a behind the scene video like that.
That would be really cool.
Oh.
All right, we want to move on to the final house that we got to see at HHN Lite.
Yeah, let's do it.
A few of us did.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Oh.
Dozens of people saw it.
Yeah, if you were one of the lucky people to get to see it over the course of, a day and a half?
A day and a half is generous.
It
was 2 full days, I guess.
It was 2 days. It was 2 days.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, but they cut it short a little bit. Didn't they like stop both days at like 7 p.m. when the park closed at 10?
No. Yes. Yeah. They stopped before park closing, but they didn't like cut the house early or anything.
They did cut the house early. Like they did.
Well, I mean, they did. They advertise. They didn't really advertise. That's a weird word. They informed you the whole time it was going to close at 7. Is my point. They never like cut it early. Like, oh, we got to stop. Actually,
right.
And I'm assuming that's just because they had one cast and they were trying not to put them in the OT.
Yeah,
that's my assumption on why they did it only till 7 p.m.
Yeah. So yes, I think of all of the 3, there's this one's got to be a lock of coming back, right? Unless something wonky happens with the rights, Beetlejuice is definitely coming to HHN.
I agree. It's a massive draw, as we saw that weekend. It sells a lot of merch. It's already locked in. It's it's already designed and built, and
I spent a lot of money on it. You can tell.
It brings the casual fan in.
Yeah.
Outside of something with Warner Brothers literally saying like, "Oh, this contract fell through. We're not doing it." I can't name a single reason why they wouldn't bring it back.
Or Warner Brothers, like, you can only go for a month, and then it will be somewhere. Then it'll only be in theaters, and then it will come back a month later. And
no. But like you were saying, it'll bring the general public in, and that's extremely true, because just across those 2 days that day, I met, we met or heard about multiple people who were not in the Horror Nights at all, but they were there early both days because they needed to see the Beetlejuice house. And that's during this little unadvertised period. Imagine when we actually get the full-fledged event, like how many people that bring in, how much money would bring the event.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is coming back. Mark my words.
And maybe that's why they had to do that little night. I mean, we've speculated on that plenty of times before, but maybe that's why they had to do that little thing to appease the contract.
Yeah, I think
that's a rumor. It doesn't ring sense to me, but
no one knows for sure on this.
I'm gonna wait for the book to come out in 10 years that tells us exactly what happened.
The story of HHN Lite.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it, but I don't think it says anything towards whether or not it's coming back next year. I think it is what it was, and either way, we're seeing it back. So, and I'm happy we're seeing it back. I'd be upset if we didn't get to see that at full capacity. We talked at length about it in one of our review shows, and I think there's a couple scenes that we really want to see them.
Yes,
what they're supposed to be. So, please come back. I'm confident you will, though.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who only got to go through this house once, it's going to definitely be up there on my hype list. We got a little tease of what it's supposed to be. It's going to be amazing, especially if it's full capacity.
I don't know if it'll be high on my hype list for the same reasons I said about the other two. I've experienced them, and while there could be some changes that help it a bit, I'll be more excited and hyped about things I haven't seen at the end of the day.
But you didn't get to see a lot of things in that house. Like you didn't get to see how that they're going to pull off the Deo scene and a lot of the scares. You got a little hint of what you're about to see in that house, but you didn't get the full experience in that one.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I'll still be excited to see what we missed, but I just won't be as excited. What I'm trying to say, I won't be as excited as I am for brand new houses. I think that's there's nothing in my theme park. I was about to say my entire life. That'd be sad. There's nothing that excites me as much in my theme park fandom as walking through a new HHN house for the first time.
Right.
So those are automatically going to be higher than houses I've already seen.
Awesome. So before we move on to kind of a spec map or some of the things we didn't see that we think are coming, there is one other thing that we did get to see at HHN Lite, and that is the tribute store. Do we think the tribute store is going to relatively stay the same and come back next year?
Oh, see, I thought about this, and I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't think so. It's already been torn down.
Yeah, I don't see... See, I don't see why you just bring back the same exact one. I also don't see why you bothered completely changing it either. I think, maybe a few changes, but what's the point of doing a complete overhaul? Especially for like, if we're keeping the same theme for HHN30, the Jack room, that's the centerpiece. It matches what the heart of the event was. Like, why would you change that?
Right.
Beetlejuice, the biggest IP, got a massive space. Really well detailed space. Why do you change that?
Right.
But then at the same time, why bring it back when it's just a tribute store? It's not like you invested too much into creating this, You could bring a completely new experience for pretty minimal cost at the end of the day.
I would say in a normal year, I could see them trying to bring something that we haven't seen before and just kind of, surprising us with, new creativity. I think this year the money is going to be tight, and they're probably going to bring back, for the most part, things that they don't have to invest new funds into creating. So if this is something that's already been designed and they know how to pull it off, I could see them bring, like we've said a couple of times, I think they're going to heavily say in some of these meetings, well, yes, we've done this before, but not everyone got to see it. Most of our, HHN fans didn't get to experience this. So we're going to, they're going to be leaning on that a lot, I think, when making these decisions.
And not only do I agree with that, I think it's the right thing to do. Again, for many reasons. I think for those fans, probably the majority of the fan base didn't get to experience it, for financial reasons for the event. So you can recoup more of the money that you lost this year, so that you can invest that budget into other places in the event potentially. I don't see why things need to be replaced and you spend additional money for it's not necessary. It's just not necessary.
Right. Now, lastly, the merch. Do we think the merch is going to be relatively the same? Well, or are we going to see them kind of bring off new things? I think this is the one thing I could potentially see new stuff coming because they want us to repurchase this.
Yeah. I think we see kind of the same idea. I think it's a lot of retro and that same kind of style. And I think we see some of the same stuff back, but I think we get additional items, basically additional designs, but of the similar style. Yeah.
I think if we were seeing a lot of this stuff back, we wouldn't have saw the 70% off sale at the end of HHN Lite that we were seeing. They were basically giving a lot of this stuff away.
I don't think we're getting the same exact items back. And I know for a fact that there was merch, like the main merch that you would see across the event had a property that will not be returning. Which we'll talk about shortly. And that was a face of it. It was very centered on the design. So that obviously has to change. So I think what we saw is not coming back. We'll get similar stuff. The stuff we didn't see will be altered.
Gotcha. Well, so how about we hop right into it? What do we think of some of the things that were rumored is not going to happen? Let's start with not, and then we'll go into what we think is going to happen.
Okay, well, really quick, just to remind everyone, let's kind of list off what the additional 7 houses were that were speculated and believed to be accurate.
Right.
So we had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we had HHN Icons Captured, Scary Horror of the Heartland, Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin, Puppet Theater Captive Audience, which has all but been confirmed at this point, Haunting of Hill House, and Billie Eilish. So I think we could start with the one that we kind of, I don't want to say for a fact, but we know Billie Eilish will not be returning. It's pretty much confirmed. Apparently she's kind of changing her image, and this was her last season of the whole sleep demon spookiness, and she's getting more, I don't know, but she's changing her image up a bit, and apparently Horror Nights wouldn't work as well for her image, so goodbye.
That's such a funny story.
Yeah, she's definitely has mentioned this in the past, so that as she gets older, that her her persona would potentially change, and that's I think what we're starting to see. Yep,
definitely. So we'll just cross that one out, and so we have 6 houses remaining to talk about, really. And scare zones as well. They did talk about the scare zones. Anniversary Zone, 30 Years, 30 Fears, Terror Quintus, and Unknown Original, and Creep Show.
What of those, which one do you think, but also could potentially not come back? Let's do not come back. I think Haunting of Hill House is the further we get away from the original one, the less, as much as I would like to see it, I think it becomes less relevant. I think last year, leading into having Bly Manor about to come out, I think Hill House was a perfect time to do that. Next year, I don't know if the timing is as right to do Hill House. It could potentially not happen, in my opinion.
I have mixed feelings about it. And it really depends so much on contract stipulations that we have no idea about. So it's tough to fully know what would happen. But my two sides of it are basically, if you're going to keep it, I think, because it's the simple route, I think it's still a property that people know and love. It wouldn't be the first time that we've seen even a Netflix property that's kind of past its expiration date, you'll say, that's appeared. Stranger Things came out when Stranger Things 2 was out, and that was just season 1 in the house. So they didn't capitalize there. Did people care? Not really. It's the same property, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but also at the same time, Haunting of Bly Manor is the same property, anthology. So things change, but kind of similar when you look at it that way.
Yeah, if the Haunting of Anthology is going to continue and the everything looks like it's going to, we could potentially, I think we could definitely see it down the road. I just don't know if the timing is quite the same as it would have been last year. We might see it in maybe 2 years from now to lead up whenever they're doing the next Haunting of big release to kind of lead into it.
I think honestly it comes down to, does Netflix care enough to want to get their most recent property out there? I don't think HHN would have too much of a hard time just rolling out Hill House and calling it a day. It's something they've already developed. They already have the contract set for it. They don't need to change it. And it wasn't going to be something that was a major draw. It is a popular horror property as far as modern series go, but it's not this massive property that's going to draw people in. At the end of the day, I don't know if you say did a Bly Manor house, how many more people is that going to draw to the event than if you have Hill House? I don't think it really changes much. Yeah.
No, maybe do you see a little bit of Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor? You see like Netflix Haunting an anthology type house?
I think if Netflix gives HHN more money to do that, sure. Yeah. Again, so I think it kind of comes down to, is Netflix okay with them using one of the now older properties, or would they be like, hey, we want to do something else. We know you've already poured money into this one thing.
Right.
So they probably have to give them more financial considerations. So I don't know. It's again, this is one of those situations where I think the contract and the I don't know how to put it, how the companies look at this separately, that would decide what happens with this house.
And then before we move on from Hill House, we do kind of know that Netflix was the one who kind of got cold feet on the whole HHN thing. Do we think that's going to potentially still be a factor for next year if COVID is still kind of in people's minds?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm trying not to look at that possibility at the moment. But I think in general, like, if obviously things look better, vaccines should be rolling out soon. But obviously we can't guarantee what things are going to look like next year. And if they look anything close to where we're at now, or where we were in July when they made the call, the event's in danger again. And I think mainly from the bigger companies that are working with them, like Netflix, like Warner Brothers. So we'll see. I'm trying not to think too much about that, and I'm having positive thoughts that the vaccine's going to come through. Everything will be great. Yeah. Maybe we'll still be wearing masks and taking precautions, but that's fine if we get the event.
Uh-huh. Right. All right. Any of the other ones there that we think that may not come back, lock to come back? Any of the, let's stick with the IPs. Any of the IPs that we think are kind of a lot? I think Texas Chainsaw is one of those that if it's probably could come back at any point.
I think it's coming back. I mean, it's one of those properties that it doesn't need to, the timing doesn't need to be correct. And the reboot or remake, or I don't even remember exactly what it is, or sequel or whatever the hell it is coming out next year. So honestly, the timing's even better.
Right.
There's just no reason to get rid of it. It's something that you could pull out any year and people will be excited to see the property. It hasn't been here since 2016 now. So I think it's coming back. I don't see why they changed it. I know a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, it could change. That's because you didn't want to see it back. So you want it to change, but there's no good reason they would change it just for the sake of changing it.
No, yeah, he's Leatherface is one of those that you can put him in the event at any point and it would work. He's a horror icon. Exactly. Those are basically all the IPs, right?
Yeah, that's it. And then if you go over to originals, Puppet Theater, that's confirmed. We know it's coming.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's coming.
I mean, we've literally listened to Mike Aiello tell us in a video that it'll be at HHN in 2021. So, see you next year, Puppet Theater, captive audience. I'm excited for you. You'll be high on my hype list.
Right. Any of the other originals that we think that could be on the fence of not coming back, or do we think that most of these are developed and are a good chance that are coming back?
I don't know. I don't see why you'd change any of the originals. There's a lot of them tying into the fact that it's an anniversary year. So icons, scary. That's not gonna. Why would that change? If you're going with the same theme, which I completely expect them to, why change those houses that tie in perfectly with them? So that obviously goes for Anniversary Zone, 30 Years, 30 Fears Zone, Terra Crentis. They all fit perfectly. Why change them, right? So really, I think at the end of the day, you're probably looking more at Wicked Growth. But again, why change an original? So obviously the property, the timing doesn't have to be right. It's an original that we haven't seen. And it's not tying into some kind of story of the times, so why change it? No one's seen it.
There's only one reason why I could see them not having some of these come back, and that would just be solely if they needed to, for budget, scale back the event and not have 10 houses. So if we only see 8 or something like that, I think some of these could potentially get the chopping block. But
and at that point, they're going to be originals.
Yeah.
So, I guess while we're talking about that, that leaves us with it could also be Bride. So we'll say Bride, Tooth Fairy, Icons, Scary, and Wicked Growth would be the potential 2 of those to get cut. If you had to cut 2 of those, not you personally, if you were Universal, what are you cutting?
I think potentially you cut Tooth Fairy because at least half of your fan base has already seen it, and it's not going to draw as many people in as some of the others. But who knows? I think that would be the one I would lean towards if you're saying, okay, some of these just can't come back. Which ones do we not bring back? Well, okay, the one that is we've already kind of shown people. That could potentially not come back.
I mean, I think you probably just get rid of the 2 we've seen. Tooth Fairy and Bride, right?
Yeah,
I mean that, but then also again, Universal Monsters has some drawing power.
Right.
So, do you want to get rid of it when you could cut an original that isn't really going to draw people in? Do you look at maybe Icons and Scary as being, they're not really similar, but they're just both tied into being anniversary and HHN history. So can we cut one of these? Wicked Growth, which is just an original that they've never announced in any form, has no specific ties that we know of to the event in the past. I'm sure it does, but it's not obvious. Could they just easily cut that one and no one think twice about it?
I mean, the only reason why I don't think that potentially could, because it looked like the Pumpkin Lord was going to be kind of a de facto icon of the event, at least based on some of the t-shirts we were seeing. So do you cut the one that had that potential? I don't know if you do.
I don't know. I can tell you that shirt's probably not coming back next year since they had it 70% off though. So I don't know. Maybe they just say, hey, we don't need them anymore. Bye. Who knows? I think that's just a really tough question that I'd prefer to just say we're going to have 10 houses.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess if we have 10 houses, then I think most of the, if not all, the originals come back. The ones that we could potentially see changed a little bit are the IPs, just based on the contracts.
Yeah, that, and I think Tooth Fairy as an original, just because we had it. So I think it has the higher possibility of getting something new there.
Yeah.
So I guess at the end of the day, for me, there's 9 houses that we're really kind of speculating whether they'll return or they'll make their appearance at HHN next year. And I think all 9 of those make the cut and will end up being back for various reasons. So sorry, Billie Eilish. I would have enjoyed seeing you, but
yeah,
it sounds like you're gone.
Yeah, I think that one would have been the most interesting to see, not just because what we were going to see there. I think it would have been fairly something that we haven't necessarily seen at HHN before, the potential to anyway. I think it would have been kind of interesting. I'm kind of sad that we're not going to see it.
Should we give a little tribute to the half-built, never-seen Billie Eilish house? Now that it's gone forever.
Pour out some of your beer.
Yep. Here we go. Hold on. Nope, never mind.
Oh no! Now it's all over the closet.
My keyboard.
I know.
But yeah, no, I'm sad, and I think one of the best things that I was going to enjoy about it was there were so many people. I'm not going to go to the event if they're going to have Billie Eilish. You know damn well they're going to go to the event, and I was just waiting for them to tweet that Billie Eilish was a good house, and I had you guys bookmarked, and I was going to talk shit about you. So you escaped. You're lucky. All of you are very lucky. I was going to enjoy that.
Just letting you know, we have the receipts, and this has always been a pro Billie Eilish podcast.
Yes.
I will say we weren't really pushing her as much as others were, but we were always okay with the idea. I'm not going to take credit for being the ones who are like, yeah, Billie Eilish, because there are people who did that. That wasn't us. We were like, yeah, why not? It's fine. Sure.
I was pretty excited for it. I really wanted to see what they could do with it. So
we were excited after we learned a little bit more. At the beginning, we were very, it'll be different. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But
I believe my phrasing was let them have their thing. Let them, let it come, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but it's definitely a draw to a certain type of crowd, and let them have their thing. The more we got to hear about it, I think the more I honestly, personally was getting excited about it.
So I know we talked about potentially doing like what our hype list would have been. I don't think we should do that for the potential of all these coming back.
Yeah.
So we'll simply ask, where would Eilish have been on your hype list? Give me a number.
I think for me, it would have been in the 4 or 5 range, like middle of the road.
Yeah. Okay.
For me. What about you, Nico? Where did you have it? I think you had it pretty high.
Yeah, it was like top 3 for me. It was like Brides, Beetlejuice, and Billy.
Oh, wow.
And I'm kind of right with you. I have it like number 4. I just kind of want to see what they could do with it. I heard great things. Not my favorite property in the world. I don't listen to her music very often, so I don't really have any association with her, but I really wanted to see what they could do. So kind of upper mid level, number 4.
Yeah.
And then really quick, do you want to talk about, not really scare zones, because we already did for the most part, and one of them's unknown. Shows. Do we get a Marathon of Mayhem type show? Do we get a Bill and Ted Academy of Villains type show?
Well, definitely not Academy of Villains.
I said type show. A dancing, they will not be back type show.
I wish y'all could see me like pulling my collar as you said that.
Yeah, no, I know what you were saying. Yeah, I potentially think that we see both. I think we would potentially get 2 shows, kind of like we got at 29. We get a Lagoon show because I think they realize the potential that they have for a Lagoon show, and then we get some sort of other show at the Fear Factor live stage. That's obviously not going to be, I personally think, either of those two properties. I think Bill and Ted Rest in Peace is done, and obviously Academy of Villains is not coming back.
Good riddance.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think we could potentially see some sort of troupe take over that does something similar to that. Okay. We've seen, and to be fair to some of those other troops we've had in the past, like the Three Penny one, and stuff like we have had other things that have done it before Academy of Villains. Academy of Villains is not the first a resident type show that we've had at HHN.
It's just the first to do it at that scale to take place for Bill and Ted.
Yeah, right.
That built up a massive theater of that scale. That's basically what I was kind of going for. Do we get not a sideshow like they used to be, or like so many others have been in the past? Do we get that big? Do we go to Fear Factor? Do we fill that stadium again?
Oh, definitely. I think we're getting a Fear Factor live show. What it is, I'm not quite sure, but I think we definitely get a Fear Factor live show, as long as COVID-19 is not. And even then, we've seen them fill a theater at the Bourne Spectacular. They can fill a socially distanced theater, no problem. So they know how to do it. So I think we get a show.
Yep, I completely agree. I think, again, it all really matters what the current climate is of our pandemic. But I think if everything looks clear, we get both shows. I don't see why we wouldn't, especially because if what we're I think we're both all on the same page, where I think for the most part houses are staying the same. So there's going to be a little extra budget to go towards stuff like shows.
Yeah. I do think that the Lagoon show would be potentially harder to do in a socially distanced atmosphere. That would be the harder one to do socially distanced. So I think if we're still in this basically socially distanced atmosphere, which I think that's a good shot we will, maybe we don't get Lagoon show next year. I think it's coming, and I think it's going to be a big part of the event moving forward, but maybe not next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there's any kind of social distancing that needs to take place, unfortunately, there's no Lagoon show. It's just not a good space to try to work with that.
Yeah. It would take a lot of a lot of parade audience. Like, you give people almost like, and I don't know if we are going to see that in the same route where you have like return times and numbers and things like that. You would need something like that for it to happen at a Lagoon show, is everyone would just need a certain number to go to their little square. It would be nearly impossible. The amount of team members that would be required to pull that off would be pretty difficult.
Yep. Agreed. So I think that kind of covers everything that we wanted to talk about as far as HHN30 in 2021 goes. I did want to do one little fun thing before we kind of closed out here. If you guys could predict the first announcement, what house it'll be, and when it will be, what are you shooting for?
Ooh, I think we get later announcements this year. I think just due to the nature of things are going to be up in the air. I think with vaccines are going to be finally starting to be ready and available come right April-ish. I don't think we're going to get an announcement right away. I think it's going to be more like a late May type announcement. And I think we get a big IP. I think we get something potentially Beetlejuice.
Okay, so you're going to go May and Beetlejuice?
Yeah, or Texas Chainsaw or whatever big IP.
The game. I needed an exact prediction here.
Okay, May and Beetlejuice.
Okay,
that's my.
Of course, you know us. We got to make a competition out of it.
Yeah, I didn't catch on that this was going to be like a points towards.
I'm sure none of us will win, but that's okay. Nico, what do you think?
Well, I think the vaccine readily available is going to happen a little bit earlier, at least from what I've seen, because the UK is already rolling it out right now as we speak, which is cool.
And I think we got December 15th here? it'll start rolling out.
Yeah,
for certain first responders.
Not for everybody, but yes.
I believe the UK as well is only for certain first responders.
But the point is, it's starting to get rolled out. So I'm actually going to be a little bit more liberal on this. I'm going to say April. One-upping there, like The Price is Right.
Okay.
If you say 700, I'll say 701. I'm going to say April, and I don't think they'll blow their wad with Beetlejuice right off the bat. I think they will go IP to get something there, and I think they will do whatever Netflix original if they decide to stick with that. So,
okay,
I think you need to pin them down. And Netflix original, so it's just any Netflix show.
I think it's kind of fair to say whatever Netflix. Oh no, fuck it, pick it, Nico. Name the property,
because that could potentially be Stranger Things.
I don't. Yeah, I mean. A Netflix original that's not Stranger Things, because I can't think of a spooky one. Oh, fuck it. Sabrina.
Okay. All right.
Wow. I think Nico's going to lose.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to have different opinions. I'm going earlier than you. I think that they're going to try to whet the appetite. I think they're going to try to build the hype early, and I think that this vaccine rolling out early will give them confidence that they can do so. I think the next thing we're going to get that's an announcement is going to be the HHN Forever Peacock YouTube type video like that we got for Puppet Theater, but more of a straight up announcement as well. And I think they're going to go all out and give us Beetlejuice. Let us know that it will indeed return past the 2 days it was here this year.
Do you have a month?
I do. I'm going February.
Okay. Would be the earliest announcements we've ever had.
Yep. Well, technically, 25 had earlier announcements.
Well, that's a good guess, because February is going to be a huge month for Universal as a whole, not just for Orlando, but that's when Super Nintendo World is going to open.
Yeah,
in
that's
Japan.
true. That's
so
true.
They might use the bump from there and be like, oh, if you think that's cool, look what's coming to Orlando, and try to do something like that.
Oh, to kind of tie what I said together with that real quick, how cool would some Peacock content for behind the scenes of Nintendo Land be?
Oh.
Speaking of Peacock, has Peacock Live been given a date yet of when if they were going to be trying to reschedule that?
Not that
because I potentially could see if they do reschedule that for next year, early next year, I could see an announcement coming out of Peacock Live.
Hold on, let me check. I don't think they have. I'm gonna double check.
I do want to go ahead and comment while you're checking. Comment a little bit on Peacock and the state of that. I think we are going to see more content like that. I think Universal is going to have to step up their game. If they want people to watch it, especially with the bombshell that Warner Brothers dropped today, with its release schedule. So just a quick recap there. Warner Brothers has announced that it will release all of its 2021 slate of movies on HBO Max and in the theater simultaneously for a month. So you'll have a full month to watch any Warner Brothers movie that they had slated coming out there. And that is going to make the people who don't already have HBO Max get HBO Max.
Yes,
that
definitely
is incredible. This is groundbreaking for the industry. And Peacock flounders there. I mean, I'm getting the better end of the deal with our stream sharing mic.
Hey, don't tell people we're doing that. That's illegal.
Oh, nobody else does that. But I mean, Peacock is. I mean, unfortunately, no, it's not letting its feathers fly. So
no, I think that it just kind of came at a terrible time where they couldn't continue further productions to come in line at the same time, which sucks. But it's the case, and it needs help at the moment, right? It's not the best streaming service by any standard.
Yeah, and if you put on basically cheap content, which that is anything that's parks related is cheap content, because basically you're just sending a production team in. You do that, you do a couple interviews, you get some footage, and boom, you're done. We've seen how popular that is on Disney Plus. I know Disney parks definitely have a larger fandom than Universal does, but Universal does have the HHN niche with it. So, yeah, I could really see, hopefully this announcement from Warner Brothers will mean, hopefully better, more original content on Peacock, which hopefully means more in-park content, which they have already expressed interest in doing.
Not only is it cheap
to be, go ahead, Mike.
I was saying, not only is it cheap content for Peacock, it's cheap advertisement for the parks. It basically is a great way to, advertise and get people into these theme parks.
And you have to assume there's a response from Universal and Disney to Warner Brothers, right? There has to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we see something. And I think that kind of plays into, I doubt it was in part of the reasoning in the back of my head, but it does play into like what I'm saying. I think we get that Peacock series starting, and it starts with a big release like Beetlejuice, and it comes pretty early. So,
nice.
February, Beetlejuice.
I hope you win in that case, stuff.
I hope you win too. I would love to start getting announcements in February so we can start, talking about this stuff early, and stop just speculate about the same stuff.
The
next 6 months.
Right, 18 months of speculating the same
about
shit.
the same shit. Thank you for listening to this, by the way. The people who have stuck for this, we've basically been talking about the same shit for it feels like forever. It has been.
It has. And the amount of people who shared with us that were in their Spotify Wrapped list, holy shit.
That is amazing. Yeah,
I can't believe we're in Spotify Wrapped.
Right?
Like, not just one. Like a shit ton of you sent us stuff. Like,
yeah.
Thank you. That's amazing.
My self-deprecating self-esteem just cannot wrap my head around. I will never ever truly understand that.
No. Remember when we used to what was it? Probably in the first 10 episodes, and we hit 100 listeners or 100 listens in the first 30 days of an episode, and it was like,
right? We were
now,
I know.
Yeah, it growth is insane, and just the fact that I feel like we do this once a month, but the fact that so many people listen to us and consistently listen to us and interact with us and actually enjoy us literally just talking, we structure the show usually. Today, not really, to be honest. We just kind of went at it. But it's at the end of the day, it's us just chatting. That's all it is. And there's so many people who love to interact, and that's why we started this. And man, I appreciate it. I love it. Sure. Looking at our statistics is outstanding, and more importantly, when you guys reach out to us and leave us voicemails, and even better with the people I get to meet in person, it makes this, because there is a lot of work that goes into it for something that's just a hobby, but that makes it all well worth it, and then some.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been amazing, and it's only going to get more amazing. But I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on. We'll see you next week with some new content, and then we're obviously going to have more content leading into the new year. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the street.
We'll see you in the street, the single one.
Just one street. Just one street.
Not yet. Not all the streets. Just one.
Just one. Hey, it's a scaled back event next year. Just one street. They're just gonna,
Well, everything was kind of on one street, so I guess that it's true.